The silent invasion. They came without warning, without negotiation, without mercy. The first signs appeared on a Tuesday morning. Strange electromagnetic disturbances that disrupted global communications for 17 minutes. Most dismissed it as solar flare activity. Some conspiracy theorists claimed government tests gone wrong. Only a handful of astronomers noticed the brief gravitational anomalies at the edge of our solar system, and by the time their urgent messages reached the right people, it was already too late. Dr. Elena Rice was calibrating equipment in her underground laboratory when the first reports came in. Massive objects had entered Earth's atmosphere, hovering silently above major cities worldwide. Not the dramatic, Independence Day-style ships Hollywood had conditioned us to expect. These were barely visible, translucent, rippling structures that bent light around them, visible only as slight distortions against the blue sky. The world held its breath for 48 hours. No communication, no demands, no attacks, just silent observation. World leaders attempted contact through every conceivable medium: radio waves, light signals, digital broadcasts. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Military forces worldwide were placed on highest alert, though no one fired. Not yet. They were waiting for orders, for understanding, for anything that made sense. Electromagnetic readings are off the charts, Elena muttered, analyzing the data streaming into her private server. The Santiago Observatory had been sending her continuous updates since the arrival. As one of Earth's leading quantum physicists specializing in exotic energy containment, she had been quietly recruited by a shadow division of the Global Defense Initiative 3 years earlier. Her work, developing countermeasures against theoretical extraterrestrial technology, had seemed like science fiction fantasy at the time. Now it was the most important research on the planet. On the third day they attacked. There was no ultimatum, no declaration of war. At precisely 3:17 UTC, synchronized energy pulses discharged from each hovering craft. Major power grids worldwide collapsed instantly. Hospitals, military installations, and communications networks plunged into darkness. The electromagnetic pulse was followed by precision strikes against critical infrastructure, water treatment facilities, transportation hubs, government buildings. Casualty reports were impossible to tabulate with communications down, but early estimates suggested hundreds of thousands dead in the first hour. Not from direct weapons fire, but from the chaos that followed. Planes falling from the sky when navigation systems failed. Traffic accidents as stoplights and vehicle controls malfunctioned simultaneously. Medical equipment shutting down mid-procedure. It was methodical, strategic, terrifyingly efficient. The military response was chaotic and ineffective. Fighter jets that managed to take off found their targeting systems non-functional when approaching the alien vessels. Missiles launched at the invaders veered off course or detonated prematurely. Ground-based weapons proved equally useless, either failing to fire or causing no visible damage when they did reach their targets. They're using some kind of electromagnetic field manipulation, Elena explained to the emergency council convened in her facility's command center 2 days after the initial attack. The bunker, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, ran on isolated power and shielded systems that had survived the EMP. It's not like anything we've theorized before. They can redirect energy, including kinetic energy from our weapons. General Harris, his uniform rumpled from 72 hours without sleep, leaned across the table. In English, Doctor. They have a shield that turns our bullets and bombs into heat and light. Useless. The Secretary of Defense rubbed her temples. Are you saying there's no way to fight back? I didn't say that. Elena pulled up schematics on the main display. This is what we've been working on for the past 3 years. Project Blacklight. It's a quantum disruption system designed to destabilize exotic energy fields. Will it work against them? The president asked, his voice hoarse. Theoretically, the problem is power. We need an enormous amount of energy to generate the disruption field, and they've knocked out most of our power generation capabilities. Plus, we only have 3 prototype generators, and they're not mobile. How close do you need to get? Within 5 kilometers of a target. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Someone would need to transport a massive experimental device dangerously close to an alien vessel, with no guarantee of success. The following weeks were the darkest in human history. Major cities worldwide fell under direct alien control. Resistance was met with precision strikes that leveled entire neighborhoods. Millions died. Millions more fled to rural areas. Global communication remained spotty at best, coordinated defense impossible. But humanity adapted. Underground networks formed. Ham radio operators became the new information superhighway. Local communities organized defense and supply chains. And in her mountain bunker, Elena worked tirelessly to refine Project Blacklight. The breakthrough came when we stopped thinking about it as a weapon. She explained to her team as they prepared the prototype for its first field test. They're not just manipulating electromagnetic fields, they're creating quantum entanglement on a massive scale. That's how they coordinate their ships, their attacks, everything. And we're going to break that entanglement, asked Dr. Cato, her lead engineer. Exactly. We're going to create a cascading quantum decoherence event. If it works on one ship, the effect should propagate through their network. The plan was desperate but simple. A convoy would transport the Blacklight device to Denver, one of the occupied cities where an alien vessel maintained position directly above the downtown core. A special forces team would provide protection, while Elena herself would operate the device. This is a one-way trip, General Harris warned her. Even if it works, you'll be at ground zero. Elena merely nodded. Her husband and daughter had been in Boston when the city was hit. She had nothing left to lose. The journey to Denver took 3 days, traveling only at night, avoiding main roads. The convoy, 5 military vehicles disguised as abandoned civilian cars, encountered sporadic resistance from both alien patrols and desperate human scavengers. They lost 7 people before reaching the designated deployment zone, an underground parking structure 3 kilometers from the target. Power connections established, reported Sergeant Wu, the combat engineer assigned to the technical team. We're channeling everything from the emergency generators. It'll give us maybe 10 minutes of operation time. Elena made final adjustments to the targeting system. The alien vessel hung motionless in the sky above them, a shimmering distortion against the clouds. It had to work. It was quite possibly humanity's last chance. Initiating quantum field generators, she announced. The device hummed to life, vibrations rippling through the concrete floor. Status indicators flickered from red to yellow as power built in the capacitors, establishing counter-resonance pattern. For 70 seconds, nothing visible happened. Then the air began to shimmer around them, a visual distortion similar to but distinctly different from the alien technology. The Blacklight device was creating its own quantum field, designed to interact with and disrupt the alien systems. Energy consumption exceeding projections, warned Dr. Cato. We have maybe 3 minutes before burnout. Elena's fingers flew across the control panel, adjusting parameters in real time. Increasing field amplitude, narrowing focus pattern. Above them, the alien vessel flickered. Its cloaking field destabilized for a fraction of a second, revealing a dark, crystalline structure beneath. It's working, someone shouted. The Blacklight device vibrated violently now, components beginning to melt from the enormous energy coursing through them. Emergency coolers hissed, spraying supercooled nitrogen across the overheating systems. 1 minute to critical failure, Cato warned. Just a little longer, Elena whispered, eyes fixed on the monitoring equipment. Field coherence at 87%, 92%, 97%. With a sound like the universe itself tearing apart, a visible pulse erupted from the Blacklight device. The shockwave, not physical but quantum in nature, expanded outward at impossible speed. When it reached the alien vessel, the effect was immediate and catastrophic. The ship's cloaking field collapsed completely. Its hull, if such a term applied to the bizarre geometric structure, began to fracture along seemingly random patterns. Energy discharges erupted from within, blue-white forks of lightning arcing across the sky. And then, impossibly, they heard it. A scream, not audible but felt, a psychic wail of confusion and agony that penetrated their minds. The aliens, sensing their impending destruction, were broadcasting distress. The vessel didn't explode in the conventional sense. It collapsed, folding in upon itself in a manner that defied understanding, until nothing remained but a shower of crystalline fragments raining down on the city below. In the silence that followed, Alina's team stared at each other in disbelief. It had worked. They had destroyed an alien vessel. Before they could celebrate, their communications equipment crackled to life. Reports flooded in from around the world. The alien ships were retreating, all of them simultaneously, abandoning their positions above Earth's cities and ascending rapidly toward space. The quantum entanglement, Alina realized. They felt what happened here. They're all connected. As the last alien vessel disappeared from Earth's atmosphere, Alina activated the global broadcast system they had prepared. Using the frequencies the aliens had employed for their own communications, she transmitted a single message, one that would follow them across the stars. Earth to invade ERs. Atasik again, and EFAC to TAL annihilation. In the days that followed, the world began the long process of rebuilding. Communication systems were gradually restored. Governments re-established control. The full extent of the damage became apparent. Over 30 million dead. Infrastructure destroyed. Entire regions uninhabitable. But humanity had survived. More than that, they had pushed back. They had shown the universe that Earth would not fall easily. Alina Reyes became an overnight hero, though she shunned the spotlight. She knew better than anyone that this wasn't over. The aliens hadn't been destroyed, merely driven off. And the message she had sent contained a dangerous bluff. They had exactly one functioning blacklight device remaining. If the aliens returned in force, Earth might not survive a second encounter. In her new laboratory, built in the ruins of what had once been No-Raid headquarters, Alina stared at the strange crystalline fragments recovered from the destroyed alien vessel. The key to improved defenses might lie within these remnants. She had to understand them, adapt them, prepare for what might come next. Because one thing was certain, the universe had just become a much more dangerous place, and humanity had announced its presence in the most dramatic way possible. The line had been crossed. There was no going back. The human response. 6 months after the retreat of the alien invaders, Earth lived in a state of uneasy vigilance. The skies were watched constantly, both by rebuilt satellite networks and by millions of ordinary citizens who no longer took the empty blue expanse above them for granted. Humanity had changed, perhaps forever, transformed by the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe, and that what waited among the stars did not come in peace. Dr. Alina Reyes stood at the observation window of the newly constructed Global Defense Initiative headquarters, watching technicians assemble the fourth blacklight device. After the success of the prototype, governments worldwide had poured resources into her program. The facility, built into the side of a mountain in what had once been Switzerland, housed over 5,000 scientists, engineers, and military personnel, all dedicated to preparing for the invaders' return. Production efficiency is up 17% this month, reported Admiral Chen, now serving as GDI's military commander. We'll have 10 operational units by year's end, ahead of schedule. Alina nodded without enthusiasm. Have your team had any luck with the mobility issue? Still working on it. The power requirements make deployment challenging. We've reduced the generator size by 30%, but these aren't exactly weapons we can hand to soldiers in the field. This remained their greatest vulnerability. The blacklight devices worked. They had proof of that. But they were massive, immobile installations requiring enormous power. If the aliens returned with different tactics, targeting multiple locations simultaneously. Earth would be unable to defend them all. What about the fragments? The Admiral asked. Some progress, Alina replied, turning away from the window. We've identified what appears to be their communication system, quantum-entangled particles that maintain connectivity regardless of distance. Dr. Okafor believes we might eventually adapt it to create instantaneous global communications. What she didn't share were her deeper concerns. The alien technology operated on principles that defied current human understanding. Each answer spawned a dozen new questions. More troubling were the biological samples recovered from the wreckage. Cellular structures unlike anything on Earth, suggesting entities that perceived reality fundamentally differently than humans. How could you predict the behavior of beings whose very consciousness might operate on different principles? The facility alarm interrupted her thoughts, its whoop echoing through the corridors. Both she and the Admiral rushed to the command center, where technicians frantically worked at monitoring stations. Report, Chen demanded. Gravitational anomaly detected at the edge of the solar system, announced the lead sensor technician. Similar signature to the first invasion, but different somehow. Larger. Alina's heart sank. They're back. Too soon, the Admiral muttered. We're not ready. The anomaly stabilized, resolving into a massive distortion approximately the size of Earth's moon. For 72 hours, it remained stationary just beyond Neptune's orbit. Unlike the first invasion, this was not a stealthy approach. They wanted Earth to see them coming. Global emergency protocols activated immediately. Cities implemented evacuation plans developed over the previous months. Military forces worldwide moved to high alert. The 10 blacklight installations, 4 operational, 6 nearing completion, were powered up and put on standby. On the 4th day, a transmission reached Earth. It manifested simultaneously on every electronic display worldwide. Televisions, computers, phones, even digital billboards. The message was not in any human language but was somehow understood by all who witnessed it, imprinted directly into consciousness. We have observed your defense capability. Impressive for such primitive beings. A technological anomaly that requires investigation. You will surrender the quantum disruption technology and its creator for study. Compliance will result in your species' preservation. Refusal will result in extinction. You have one planetary rotation to decide. In the GDI Emergency Council that followed, opinions were sharply divided. This is a negotiation opening, argued the Chinese representative. They recognize our strength and seek to understand it. It's a demand for surrender, countered the American general. They want our only effective weapon against them. Alina remained silent throughout the debate, studying the visual component of the alien message. Strange, flowing symbols that seemed to shift when not directly observed. Finally, she spoke. They're afraid. The room fell silent. The transmission contains embedded quantum signatures matching the remnants we studied. Their communication is based on entanglement, which means the destruction of one vessel potentially damaged their entire network. They don't understand how we did it, and that terrifies them. So what do we do? Asked the UN Secretary General. We buy time, Alina said firmly. I'll go. Her announcement shocked the council. Admiral Chen began an immediate protest, but Alina cut him off. Not to surrender. To stall. They want me and information about the technology. I'll bring a modified blacklight projector, one that won't function but will look convincing. While I'm there, our scientists continue production of the real devices, and our intelligence teams prepare a more comprehensive defense strategy. It's suicide, Chen said flatly. Maybe. But if they wanted to simply destroy us, they could have launched an overwhelming attack. The fact that they're communicating at all means they perceive some risk in confronting us directly. After hours of debate, the council reluctantly approved her plan. A response was transmitted to the alien vessel. The creator will come to explain the technology. Coordinates for safe approach follow. 3 days later, Alina boarded a modified space shuttle, accompanied by a small team of scientists and special forces operatives. The decoy blacklight device, convincing on the outside but internally sabotage, was secured in the cargo bay. As they ascended through the atmosphere, Alina wondered if she would ever see Earth again. The journey to the rendezvous point took 17 hours. As they approached, the alien vessel came into view, a massive structure that defied conventional geometry, curves and angles intersecting in ways that hurt the human eye to observe. "Remember the plan," Alina reminded her team as a tractor beam locked onto their shuttle. "We're here to gather intelligence and buy time. No heroics." The shuttle was drawn into a cavernous opening that appeared to materialize in the alien hull. As the external doors sealed behind them, gravity shifted, disorienting the human occupants. The air remained breathable when they exited the shuttle, though tinged with an odor like ozone, and something unidentifiably alien. They were met by entities that Alina could only partially comprehend. The aliens seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, partly physical, partly energy, their forms flowing and reshaping as they moved. Communication was telepathic, concepts forming directly in the humans' minds. "The creator comes. The weapon comes. Show us." Alina had prepared extensively for this moment. She gestured to the decoy device as her team unloaded it from the shuttle. "This is our quantum disruption technology. It functions by creating a cascading decoherence effect in entangled particle systems." She proceeded to explain the principles, mostly accurate, but with critical components deliberately misrepresented. Throughout her presentation, she felt alien consciousness probing at her mind, searching for deception. The mental barrier she had trained with GDI's psychics proved bar demonstration required. "It requires significant power and calibration," Alina explained. "We would need to integrate with your systems." This bought them several hours as her team pretended to connect the decoy to alien power sources. During this time, Alina's true mission progressed. A nanoscale recording device integrated into her retinal implant was capturing everything about the alien vessel's interior structure. What she discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The ship was partially organic, grown rather than built. The aliens themselves appeared to be a collective consciousness distributed across multiple physical forms. Most importantly, she identified what seemed to be central nodes of their communication network, crystalline structures similar to the fragments recovered on Earth. When the aliens finally grew suspicious of the delays, events unfolded rapidly. As they moved to seize the decoy device, Captain Rivera of the Special Forces team activated their contingency plan. Genuinely functional quantum disruptor, miniaturized and hidden within her team's equipment. Much smaller than the blacklight device, its effective range was measured in meters rather than kilometers, but at close range, it was devastatingly effective. The disruption field expanded outward, catching the nearest aliens in its effect. Their forms destabilized, coherence patterns collapsing. The ship itself shuddered as the effect propagated through its partially organic systems. "Now," Alina shouted as she sprinted back to the shuttle, her team providing covering fire against aliens converging from deeper within the vessel. They barely made it. The shuttle launched from the docking bay just as larger sections of the alien vessel began destabilizing. Behind them, the massive ship convulsed, energy discharges erupting across its surface. But they weren't safe yet. As they accelerated away, smaller alien craft deployed in pursuit. Their shuttle, though modified with the best technology Earth could produce, was outmatched in both speed and weaponry. "They're gaining," reported the pilot. "Weapons lock detected." Alina made a split-second decision. The decoy. Eject it now and detonate its power core. The explosion created a temporary disruption field that disabled the closest pursuers, giving the shuttle the precious minutes needed to activate its experimental faster-than-light drive, reverse-engineered from alien technology over the past 6 months. The journey home was tense, their systems damaged, life support failing. By the time they reached Earth orbit, only Alina and 3 others remained alive. but the information they brought back was priceless. On Earth, developments had proceeded rapidly in their absence. The aliens, perhaps anticipating Elena's deception, had launched simultaneous attacks against multiple locations worldwide. This time, however, humanity was better prepared. Blacklight installations successfully defended 7 major population centers. Reverse-engineered alien technology had been incorporated into conventional weapons systems, making them effective against the invaders. And a global defense grid, coordinated through quantum entanglement communications, allowed for unprecedented strategic response. The battle raged for 9 days. Millions died. Cities burned. But this time, humanity fought back effectively. The decisive moment came when Elena, still recovering in a military hospital, provided the critical insight from her observations aboard the alien vessel. "They're a hive mind," she explained to GDI Command. "The individual entities aren't fully autonomous. They're extensions of a central consciousness. If we can target the primary node vessels, we can disrupt their entire battle network." Armed with this knowledge, Earth's forces concentrated their attacks on the command ships Elena had identified from her recordings. The effect was dramatic. Alien forces became disorganized, their perfect coordination faltering. On the 10th day, the remaining alien vessels retreated, creating the same gravitational distortion they had arrived through. As they departed, Earth broadcast a final message on the aliens' own communication frequencies. "To all extraterrestrial forces, Earth is protected. Enlive if you are the aggression, while BDNET with immediate and total annihilation. This is our first and final warning." In the months that followed, humanity united as never before. National boundaries became secondary to species survival. The Global Defense Initiative transformed from an emergency response organization into the governing body for Earth's new unified military and scientific endeavors. Elena Reyes, now serving as GDI's chief scientific officer, stood once again at the observation window of the mountain facility. Below her, technicians assembled not weapons, but something far more ambitious, Earth's first faster-than-light vessel, incorporating both human innovation and adapted alien technology. The Admiral smiled slightly. "And if we encounter our old friends again?" Elena's expression hardened. "Then we'll remind them that they were warned." As night fell over the facility, lights illuminated the massive construction bay where humanity's future was being built. Above, the stars shone in a sky now known to be filled with both wonders and dangers. Earth had crossed a threshold, from isolated world to galactic participant, and there would be no returning to the innocence of before. But perhaps, Elena thought as she gazed upward, that wasn't entirely a loss. Humanity had always been at its best when challenged, when forced to overcome seemingly impossible odds. The universe had tested them, and they had proven themselves worthy of survival. The line had been crossed, and humanity now stood ready on the other side, facing the stars not with fear, but with determination.